I forget what all is in there, but yeah, it's a really good one. That one's out of Texas.
Yeah.
Dan, I did have a single Allagash White, and I rated. Here was my review of it. Is this the thing that Peter King likes? Comma. If so, comma. Finally, a decent opinion.
Nice.
I wrote that back in 2014. I used to be funny.
And Peter King used to be irrelevant.
Is that a bad company man if Zach laughs at that? Is Peter King still NBC, or did he go off and do something else?
I'm not sure, to be honest.
I think.
Okay, good. All right, so you're fine. You're protected. You're protected.
Yeah.
All right, let's hit it, boys.
Go district, you know the Pope listens. Dynasty, our religion, for the blokes missing. On all of these trades, on all of these plays, on all of these grades. By the end of the day, y'all getting played. So, what you gonna do next? Try to fill up that flex? Send the homie a text? That trash offer's the best? You try to make it complex, then they text you back. Now all of a sudden, they don't make any sense. Broaden your horizons, boy. Dynasty's not for the Simons, boy. These trades not for consignment, boy. Respect your opponent, y'all some piranhas, boy. This my advice from me to you. Open up your cute little podcast queue. Search up GOAT District, my dude. Pop it in your ear, man. Y'all know what to do. It's the and I always be traded. And I always be traded. And I always be trading. Y'all try to betray them, but first you gotta bait them. Fish.
What is up, Fantasyland? Welcome back to the district. And we bring back another huge guest on return. Brought so much goodness the first time he was on. He's back again. Zachary Krueger, welcome back to the district, brother.
Yo, what's up, guys? I had said earlier this was like, well, not this, but this one will also be. But the previous podcast with you all was some of the most fun I had this offseason doing pods. We had to run it back sometime in the season. Here we are today, ready to talk some ball, drink some beers, and have some fun.
Nice. And I am jealous, you guys, with the beers. I'm as our friend Rogers likes to say, immunizing myself. I'm French, man. I can't say that word, but you guys know what I'm saying. No beer for me tonight. Keeping it PG. Trying to not get more sick. Andrew. Sorry.
Are you drinking horse paste or?
It's I literally have hot water with lemon, and that's why my throat keeps getting stuck a bit, and my wife gives me the fancy oils to throw in there to get better. Hey, it's worked so far. I told Dan yesterday I might not be alive tomorrow night, but I'm here. So they're doing something.
Right. We just need you for today. So
after that, whatever, right? It's all good. Nice. Andrew, how you doing in the darkness there, brother?
God. For you Pulp Fiction fans, I am the Goat District's gimp. You guys only unlock me and let me out of the trunk.
It's in the dungeon. He's in the dungeon.
Good guess. So here I am. I'm in the dark, which I guess goes with the whole gimp thing. Happy to be here. Happy to see you, Zach. Hello, friends.
Nice to have you as usual, Dan. We're minus a Theo, but we've got Andrew and a Zach. How are you, brother? Always a pleasure to hang with you on a Tuesday night.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to it. As Zach said, that was a super fun podcast the last time. I'm expecting more of the same tonight, and just having Andrew on here is definitely going to add to the excitement level, because I mean, this man goes on some rants that when it comes out, you never know when it's coming, but when it comes, oh baby,
or what it's going to be about is the real issue.
Right, exactly. Yeah, half the time when he started, I don't even know where you're going yet.
There's like a wind up, and then he just takes off.
Neither do I. Hey, too bad, Ron. You looked for Theo, but you got me.
There you go. Minus a Theo, add one Andrew, and it's Theo had some real life stuff. Sometimes real life gets in the way of fantasy and gets into the show. But nonetheless, Zach, NBC Sports Edge, RotoViz, 4for4. I mean, Underdog, some solid company names right there. For those who don't know, share the people what you're doing these days, where to find your work, where to find you on Twitter. I'm sure they're following you at ZK_FFB.
Yeah.
Give him any other info you want to share, brother, before we get into the goodness.
Yeah, what I'm doing right now is I'm just paying the freaking bills because I kind of got into this football thing. I quit my full-time job after landing the NBC Sports Edge gig. I had to kind of piece together some other things. So you mentioned that I got NBC Sports Edge going on. I got a weekly article over at RotoViz. It comes out every Friday. That's called the Red Zone Report. It's pretty self-explanatory.
Just
awesome.
awesome.
Opportunities, targets, stuff like that. I've got a 4for4 article that I do every week as well on the Underdog Fantasy Battle Royale tournaments that come up each week. I kind of throw a couple plays in there. And then I also have a weekly podcast I do with RotoViz that is called the Waiver Wire Rider. It comes out every Wednesday. Now, sadly, I say that is it won't be coming out this coming Wednesday because I had some personal things I had to take care of today. So I'm skipping this week, but it'll be back going on for the rest of the season. But I got that going on. And then for NBC Sports Edge, I got a group of 5 article that I do every week for college football. I pick 2 group of 5 games that I like. I pick a team usually against the spread who I want to win there. I'm doing okay there, so that's always fun. It kind of would suck if I wasn't doing good. So luckily I've got a couple of those picks hitting, and then I also do a daily fantasy article for NBC Sports Edge that comes out every Thursday, where I just kind of look at a couple value plays. So I think would be fun to jam into your lineup and try to ship a DFS tournament or GPP of some sort. So just putting it all together, living that football dream. I'm now a grizzled football guy, just sitting in my mom's basement. I mean,
that's why we have you down there in the dungeon with beside Andrew.
Right.
But no, man, just a well-rounded guys. You heard, DFS, redraft, dynasty, in his mom's basement. Show the support. No, in all seriousness, Dan, I know on RotoViz, Zach puts out a sweet article on Fridays. We're big fans of that. And we're just big fans of your work. So keep working it, buddy. You'll get out of that basement. You do what you love and you put in the effort that you need. You'll get there, brother. That's for sure. Let's start it off. You're well-rounded. You're working, putting all these different projects together. What's one of your favorite sources that you go to? Maybe not one of the sites that we mentioned that you work for, but maybe another source that you use, or even if it's like a stat or something that you think is important for your work.
Yeah, so I mean, I certainly can't ignore the ones that I do work for. Certainly NBC Sports Edge, RotoViz, 4for4. They all have really great sites. Another site that I'm also writing for that's just completely behind the scenes right now, I'm not doing any writing, but I'm doing some work for them, is playerprofiler.com. I also chart 2 games a week for them just to kind of help them pull together all their advanced stats and analytics and stuff like that. Once upon a time, I actually came up with their true yards per carry metric that they have on that website as well, which just kind of removes long runs and then also like the goal to go runs where teams, could be negatively, or a player can be negatively affected over the course of time, where we now get a misleading yards per carry stat. So true yards per carry kind of cut out the anomaly runs, if you will, and gave us a better picture of what a running back is doing on the majority of his carries. So I think Player Profiler is a great site. Another one that's worth subscribing to. A lot of cool people who work for that as well. Great stats and analytics, and Cody Carpentier, Josh Larkey, obviously the Podfather himself. Very cool. That's a pretty nice looking basement.
Wheeler. It's hard not to throw Wheeler on the screen. It's just the comments are too good. And Zach, I will backtrack a bit. I'm half French, man. I'm Canadian. There's a lot of things going wrong here. My question came out. If you want to highlight a tool or something you use on the sites you work for sure, throw that out there.
Yeah, I mean, the one tool that I would say for particularly fantasy football, I love going to the RotoViz screener. If you guys are subscribers to RotoViz, if you've not done that before, that's literally, if you kind of want to see how the sausage gets made, that's where I get my Red Zone Report content from. They got a bunch of different sliders and features. You can look at different stats and stuff like that, plug them all in. So when I'm doing something like my Red Zone Report article, I'll devalue myself here by telling you guys how you can do it yourself, that you don't have to read my stuff anymore. If you go on the RotoViz screener, you just slide the yards to go, yards from own goal meter, down to 80 to 99, and then You plug in, I do targets and attempts, and then I will for running back, I'll do targets and attempts. I sum those up into opportunities when I actually put it into a table. But that's a really great way to just kind of look at tools and look at different things that players are doing in a high volume area of the field where you can get a lot of fantasy points. The more, red zone touches you're getting, I tend to imply that you're probably going to be getting a few more fantasy points there. Shout out Austin Hooper, who scored a touchdown. He was in my previous week's article, so that was nice to see as well. It does happen. Red zone targets, red zone opportunities lead to more fantasy points generally. So it's a fun little tool that I use in the road to screener to get that article together every week. Definitely check that out if you're interested. And
sorry, I've been fumbling around. Wow, sorry, Dan. Trying to get that on the screen for you. Maybe you can, because I'm sure people.
Yeah, we can write a whole article here if you want. Go up the season and just pull that slider all the way to 2021.
Here we go. Okay.
Yeah. All right. Get rid of all the positions except for running back. Yeah, let's put this thing together here. I'll literally show you how it gets made.
Let me make it bigger so people can actually see this.
Sure.
There we go.
All right.
Okay.
So now if you go down to display variables underneath of where it says query one there,
yep.
Everything you have is pretty much needed there. Delete everything real quick, though. I'll tell you specifically what I like to look at just for this thing. So I will do RUATT, which is just for rush attempts.
Okay.
And then I will do RUEP. That is rushing expected points in the red zone. It'll be in the red zone here in a second.
I hope you guys are taking notes and smashing that like button right now, because this is
RETRG for receiving targets.
Okay.
Yeah. REEP, which is expected points for receptions. Okay. And then I do PPR. I don't do half. Certainly, you can do half if that's your thing. Now we're underneath of weeks. It says YFOG. You're going to want to slide that 1 all the way over just to 80.
So tell me what YFOG.
Yes,
means.
I was just going to ask that.
Yards from
it's yards from own goal.
Oh,
okay,
got it.
Yeah, and then search database.
Okay.
Just up top there. It's up actually up at the top.
Oh, I thought it was. Yeah, my apologies.
Here
we go.
Yeah. So what I do when I'm putting together my red zone report, now I do running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends. For tight ends and for wide receivers, I just do receptions. But now if you scroll down after you hit the search, what you should get a chance to see.
Let me shut some windows here.
This will give it to you. This will give it to you over the course of the whole season so far, but certainly what you can do is you can narrow it down on a week-to-week basis if you want to as well. But what I'll do is I'll kind of use that information. I'll plug it in, and then I just download it to a CSV, which is another really nice feature that Roto has. You can download their data to a CSV, and then you can go ahead and you can, then what I do is I end up adding the columns up, and I produce my own table in the RotoViz article that I put out every Friday. But we'll get down there should be.
There we go.
Yeah. So there's the data. Yeah.
There
so you
go.
see Jonathan Taylor. I'm having a little trouble reading it there, but you can see where it's expected points, 5 targets in the red zone. That's all season. So Jonathan Taylor's not even seeing a lot of targets in the red zone. He's strictly just getting the rush attempts. PPR, scoring. One of the guys who was a total god actually in the red zone last year for really the majority of the season, kept on making his way into my article in 2020, was Bears tight end Jimmy Graham. He did not see a lot of receiving work, but for some reason, Jimmy Graham was getting a lot of red zone work and converting a lot of points and was constantly sneaking into lineups as like a top 12, sometimes even like a top 5 tight end. And that was kind of how I found that out. So yeah,
I appreciate you walking us through that. Hopefully, and guys, let us know if you want to see more stuff like that, just to help you guys out, kind of learning how to fish, right? As opposed to just being given that fish. So check it out on RotoViz, where you'll find not only Zach's awesome work, but tools that I know Dan and Andrew as well are big fans of, and we use in different ways. And that's just a new way that I've just learned, and I'll go back and take notes.
Yeah, for sure. And I would like to point out that we are seeing Ron Meyer in coat and tie for the first time, I think, that I've ever seen him in a coat and tie. catch Ron in Vegas, he's going to be wearing this flip flops.
It's disorienting.
It is kind of. It is. Yeah.
It's all right.
But good to have Ron on here. Ron is in a bunch of leagues that JD and Andrew and I are in. So he has his own non-cheapo rankings. So if you are interested in those, you can just check out Ron on the old Twitterverse, and he'll tell you whether a player is a stone or a stud or whatever they are. So thanks for joining us, Ron.
Yeah, don't skip ahead to question number 2, Dan. Who's your favorite follow on Twitter?
Profesh. He's a profesh.
That's
Andrew,
right.
who's yours?
Well, let me go back to question number 1, if I may. Favorite sources.
Yeah, and Dan too. You guys throw it in while you're talking about your.
Yeah. So let me do that, because look, a lot of us play high stakes, and I'll admit, sometimes forget myself is not the right words here, but I'm so focused on hey, what does it make sense for FFPC? What does it make sense for these large field tournaments? That what I don't want to lose sight of, and I don't have an eye for or the time for myself, is the talent of the actual players. And I think one of the best sources who is doing talent evaluation on a day-to-day basis is Christopher Harris. Used to be on ESPN. Now I think is doing his independent thing. In terms of his rankings, I think that they're slow moving. I think are slightly more floor based than ceiling based. So again, you have to take that. You have to understand kind of what you're using when you're thinking about, okay, am I doing high stakes? Am I doing home league, or what am I doing here? So just know that going in, he's really. I think that I have found that his weekly rankings are floor based. His draft rankings are floor based. But man, does he really help me understand the talent of the players going in. And he helps distill that information. He's got YouTubes, he's got podcasts. I use that oftentimes to see, okay, forget the volume, forget the stats, forget whatever. And look, Zach, I appreciate all the stats, obviously. But at the end of the day, is is the player I'm about to spend all this fab on, are they worth a damn when it comes to talent? And I think that Christopher Harris is my favorite gut check. Just going back to that. To make sure I'm grounded properly. So anyways, he's my number one, I think, really underrated source for fantasy football research. And Wheeler disagrees, which is fine. Not sure if that's on the rankings or his talent evaluation. And by the way, he's condescending as shit. But I'm into that. I
hate to say I agree with Wheeler a little bit. Dan, anything to add?
I'm following him for the first time. I was not aware of. Somehow I've lived my life to this point without Christopher Harris coming into my life. So I have just invited him in, and we'll see what happens.
Condescending as shit. I'll admit it. But sometimes I like to be treated badly, so I don't mind it. I need to be put in my place.
For me, I'll go with Dwayne McFarland. And he's at, I think it's at Context Matters, Context Matters is his name. At Dwayne McFarland is Twitter handle. But he just does such a good job of breaking down teams every week. A very easy to read report that he puts together at Pro Football Focus. He's got skin in the game. He's a high stakes player, and he just, he's very down to earth. And, I think he does a good job of distilling things down to, really the important details rather than getting too lost in, a lot of the weeds as a lot of analysts tend to do.
I'll add a couple, since we're on the tube, and that's where our peeps are watching, and they are probably already following them. But, if you're not, 1st and 15, I'm a big fan of just what they're doing, just the flow of it, the chemistry between the guys, the originality of it, even just the fact that they do the quarters, everything's just really well done. But the content is very different for me than what I hear in other places. And I just like the perspective. They're high stakes players. Obviously Skywalker's done it, 2 years in a row on the FFPC, winning 6-digit prizes in high stakes, and they're killing it this year from what I understand. So just guys that I enjoy listening to, but the quality as well is very unique. and effective for me. So check out 1st and 15th. And guys, we were just on with fantasy data with Billy and the crew there. And I mean, Bradley, just awesome content, very relevant to you wanting to win your fantasy leagues, whether you're playing high stakes, redrafts, dynasty, good guests, good content on a regular basis. So those are two that I'll throw out there. Again, if you're not already following them, check them out. So Zach, did you have a follow to add to your special tool that you walked us through?
Yeah, I'll say one of my favorite follows, really just I kind of became more familiar with his work and the stuff that he did over the course of the off season. He was nice enough to come on my live stream earlier this off season. I did over on RotoViz YouTube channel. Is NBC Sports. I'm a company man. I'm sorry. John Daigle. I think John Daigle consistently just crushes, he's got awesome, articles and he's great on their podcast, A Good Football Show and all that, but he just crushes it with the Twitter game too. Like the other day, I say the other day, like it was actually the other day, just a couple hours ago, Daigle drops his he drops that tweet every week where it's how to get ahead of the competition based on someone who might be injured. Like he'll say Kareem Hunt, and then he'll do a hyphen and he'll have Dearness Johnson next to it or something like that. So Daigle is constantly, and he does the waiver wire article over at NBC Sports Edge too, if I remember correctly, and he crushes that as well. So Daigle is, he's a nice guy, super cool dude. And then on top of that, he's crushing the Twitter game. He's constantly just delivering actionable information. So I'm big John Daigle fan on Twitter. I love what he puts out there. And who doesn't love Denny Carter either for nothing other than kicker stuff?
Right. Yeah, that's a good call.
Good.
Yeah, I love me some Daigle. Guys, let's get to the goodness. I know we started off a little different today. Just want to, we want to offer all aspects of the game, and we want to make you guys better in every possible way and take advantage of the guests we have on and the amount of work that Zach's doing. We thought maybe it'd be good to touch on where he's getting some of that info and maybe direct you guys to some new sources. So if you like that, smash the like, smash the subscribe, let us know in the comments. But let's get into the goodness, guys. Should we care? We do this on a weekly. It's kind of a, quick kind of review of what's happening. Seattle's an interesting offense to me right now, guys. And Zach, as our guest, I'll go to you first. You've got, big pieces like DK Metcalf when you're looking at Dynasty or even redraft where these guys are going and what the expectancy is. Russell Wilson, one of the top end QBs, is again the expectation. This offense is just not rolling since, especially now that he's come back from the injury with Russell, and maybe that'll take time. And maybe what we saw this weekend wasn't what to expect. But I'll go to you, Zach. How worried are you with this Seattle offense? Are you seeing opportunity here for maybe some dynasty players to buy or sell certain guys? Or just even rest of season, how do you see this scenario playing out?
So as far as concern goes, I'll be more concerned if this continues for another week, because I think there was some concern on, on the side of Russell Wilson's injury with that finger, that maybe he was actually either rushing himself back or being rushed back by the Seahawks, because some people thought that he was going to miss more time than what he did. I believe, did he miss 3 games or did he miss 2 games? I can't even remember. But I know that the prognosis was essentially longer than what ended up happening. So that I kind of consider what Russ gave us this past week a little bit of a wash. He literally completed 50% of his passes. He was 20 for 40, 161 yards, 2 touchdowns. He also 2 interceptions, no touchdowns. He also didn't scramble at all in this game. So, in terms of a fantasy perspective, what you kind of hope Russell will give you a little bit if he's not passing well is a little bit on the ground game. He wasn't even giving us that. So, they were shut out. They weren't good. Obviously, they're not going to be good. Geno Smith. I'll be a little bit more concerned about that offense if they're not able to do anything in the coming week. Now that I kind of view Russ's injury as being another week past, hopefully he's producing at a higher level heading into, the next week. But it's tough right now. I think the more discouraging thing is that Pete Carroll was quoted after the game saying that they need to run the ball more. And I don't know if you need to be running more with Alex Collins at any point in time. And then on top of that, at some point in time, you're trailing by 2 scores. You certainly don't need to run the ball then. So I I don't know. The coaching is kind of weird there. We know the coaching has always been a little bit weird there with wanting to have Russ cook, and that never seems to happen. So I'll be curious to see what happens in the coming week, and then I'll kind of put out my, thoughts on whether or not I'm actually concerned with the offense going forward.
Dan, was it 4 weeks that Wilson missed?
I believe
that was week 5. Now that he got injured.
Yeah, because Gino played for 3 weeks and then they had a bye. So
4 weeks. Yeah.
4 weeks out.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Where are you, Dan, with this Seattle situation?
Yeah, I'm gonna give them a mulligan on this one. I mean, Green Bay is actually a low-key pretty good defense now, and so they're difficult. And the conditions weren't probably the greatest. I mean, I know Seattle plays outside and all that, but when Green Bay, when it's snowing, that does tend to have an effect on some teams as well. So I'm not overly concerned. I mean, it just felt like the chemistry was off. Like Lockett was getting open, DK was getting open. There were things that were happening, and it was just like it was not all coming together. From what I saw of that game. So I think they'll probably be able to, start fitting the pieces back together again. But anytime Pete Carroll starts talking about he wants to run the ball more, it just, oh man, that bugs me.
What's the definition of insanity again, Andrew?
Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. January 14th, 2018, Jags Steelers in Pittsburgh. I almost get in a fight because I'm there in person. By the way, this is Blake Bortles.
Surprise.
This is Blake Bortles. Hold on. I do almost get in a fight. There's some dude in a ski mask. Like, they're not going to over dramatize this. But some dude in a ski mask kind of waited for me, like, as the game was ending. Nevertheless, the Jaguars won, mind you, and we still chant to this day, Miles Jack wasn't down for our loss against the Patriots. But nevertheless, 4th and one. First quarter, I had to look up the date, by the way, but I know this play. And we go for it on 4th down, and I am screaming in Heinz Field, good 4th down math! Good 4th down math! It's the only thing I was yelling, and I almost got in a fight because I was yelling the words, good 4th down math. Do you know who sucks at 4th down math? Is fucking Pete Carroll. I think about it all the time. Danny Kelly wrote some tweet. Again, this is probably back in the He goes literally, and it pops up. It gets like retweeted every once in a while. It's just like Pete Carroll's gonna be on his deathbed, and the only thing he's gonna regret in life is all the times he went for it on 4th down, meaning he wants to punt more in life. Pete Carroll drives me absolutely nuts. Having said that, I love Russell Wilson, and I love DK Metcalf, and I love Tyler Lockett, and I just can't quit any of the three of them. Mm-hmm. So I'm still buying the offense. I think it's a blip. In terms of, I wouldn't expect it to be this bad. Look, with Pete Carroll there, it's always going to be like a ceiling, a cap on their total explosiveness. But I believe in the talent of at least those three, and I think the more Russell Wilson gets comfortable, I think that they're going to be back to at least DK and Lockett being productive for the fantasy teams.
You guys know anything about Chris Carson? Wheeler's asking about. I know Alex Collins pooped the bed for me this week. Thank you very much.
I thought that I had seen something. Maybe it was after the Packers game that Carson might be out longer than expected. Did anyone else see that? Am I correct on that one?
Yeah, I did, and I think they've started the clock on him too. So if he can't make it back within 21 days, then he's got to revert to injured reserve for the rest of the year. So I mean, I wouldn't have ever thought that Carson would be that important to this offense, but I'm starting to get the feeling that at least the way that Pete Carroll runs this offense, Carson is probably that important to him.
I think he's important to the offense because Pete Carroll can't fathom a team that's not rushing the ball like 45% of the time. I think that's the only reason why.
Right. Yeah. And, Collins has been – he's one of those guys that if he gets used too much, he gets exposed, and he's been exposed again. So
yeah, they're also playing Arizona this week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it sounds like Carson might be out for a bit longer from my quick Google search capabilities here.
Yeah. the disappointing thing, I think, with the whole fact that Carson's out and Pete Carroll's talking about running the ball is the fact that, like, you would think that this might really legitimately open up the opportunity for him to run out of excuses to not let Russell Wilson cook and not let him throw. And he's just like doubling down. Like, he would probably double down with DJ Dallas as a starting running back if he had to, because he's just so obsessed with this idea of running the ball. Like, I just don't think that he really cares who they are lining up, and I don't think he cares about game script. I don't think he cares about anything. Like, the fact that he keeps on coming back to this idea of we have to run the ball after every loss just seems absurd at this point in time. So, in most situations, we would think that opportunity would open up when certain running backs go down, when teams are forced to run out their second, third, fourth guy, and Pete Carroll's just, we got to run the ball more. So,
Zach,
it's interesting.
It begs the question: who's the insane one, Pete Carroll or us? Who's really insane at the end of the day?
Pete Carroll or who? Us?
Or us? Yeah, for thinking he's going to change.
Well,
right.
yeah.
It's us. We look at these talented wide receivers. We look at this talented quarterback. This guy who is probably a borderline Hall of Famer with his first 5 years in the league if he were just retired. And we look at this guy and we think, there's a lot of things make sense for us who want to draft these guys, to play these guys. And then what happens is Pete Carroll looks at Alex Collins and he can't help but continue his man crush for this guy who he once drafted, cut, brought back, and who's now starting. He can't help but play him regardless of who is out there. So we are in fact the crazy ones. You want to talk about looking at Chris Harris and talent? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what Chris says about DK Metcalf or Tyler Lockett, because what's his gauge on Alex Collins, and whatever that gauge is, it doesn't matter, because Pete Carroll knows better than we do. He knows better than Chris Harris. He knows better than everybody. So we're actually the lunatics here. Thank God we have beer on the show.
There you go.
Dan. Dallas and KC, 40-plus points this week. Do we care? Should we care? Why?
I mean, Dallas has been really, with the exception of really the 1 week against Denver. They've been a top offense. So this is what I expect to see from Dallas. They're not going to get to play Atlanta every week. But Kansas City, we were talking about last week on the podcast, and Mahomes was talking about, we're just gonna keep forcing it deep, and I was like, no, take what they're giving you, and then when they start to sag again, then you can throw it deep again. Well, this is what they did exactly. I'm not going to say I have a hotline to Andy Reid or anything like that, but I was and I'm not even going to say I'm that smart for figuring it out. I mean, I think most people could figure out what the issue was, but finally the Chiefs figured it out, and they started just hitting Kelsey over and over and over again underneath until the defense had to start collapsing down to stop that. And then all of a sudden, they start getting some of the stuff open over the top. So hopefully that solves their problem. I do think there are still defenses that can give them trouble. The fact that they still struggle to run the ball, they just don't have a great talent. When a team invites them to run, they can't. And maybe in a way that's a good thing, because it does force them to, use a short passing game. But, hopefully this continues. I've got a lot of KC passing game shares. So this would be really, really nice for me if they keep moving us.
Yeah.
How asinine does Clyde Edwards-Helaire look? Like that pick? Not him the player, but him the pick just looks hilarious every single week. I mean, I know he can't help the injuries. That's one thing, but the Clyde Edwards-Helaire play is just whoever was sitting in there. If the true story is that Patrick Mahomes got to handpick him over Jonathan Taylor, Patrick Mahomes gets no more input going forward. And that's the people who are there to evaluate.
Yeah, I think the Dallas one's interesting. I think that because we're expecting, Dak to be putting up crazy numbers, I think in our heads we're thinking, oh, they figured it out last week. But in reality, I think, Dan, as you said, they've actually been humming along all season aside from the Denver game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, hold on to your pants, because I'm about to compare myself to Patrick Mahomes. I play pickup basketball. And would you guess that I am constantly running my mouth at myself And the number one thing that I yell at myself on the court, right, is when I'm trying to do my post moves, I'm doing the Kevin McHale moves, counter moves, whatever, and then I just like throw up an absolute brick. And what I yell at myself is, patience, Andrew, patience. And I think that what Casey did last week was finally put the patience together and just say, okay, I'm just going to do like the Travis Kelce drive, right? Okay, fine. First drive of the game, Kelce. Underneath what I'm just going to take what they give me. And I know that Mahomes wants to gunsling out there. He wants to run through all his post moves, wants to do whatever he wants to do out there. You know, I guess the analogy doesn't work because maybe it's a 3-point shot. Nevertheless, they finally showed some patience. Now, can they continue to do that and then hit the spots when they open up? I mean, that does remain to be seen. But I was really encouraged by that. And like I said, on Dallas, I think they've been humming along all along. Is just, okay, Dak's not the one who's, you know, necessarily like all, you know, putting up video game numbers every week. And I think that's kind of putting a clouding our minds and our judgment around the Dallas offense.
Dan, we want to encourage the chat question. So why don't we quickly answer this one here? Andrew, I know you're nodding your head. Dan,
yeah,
you already
so
put your answer in there.
Yeah, here I'm going with we have pick one rest of the season, Amir Abdullah versus Jarrett Patterson. I'm going to take Abdullah just because, as Wheeler points out in the chat, Abdullah is already getting targets, and then also I look at McCaffrey as being probably the one who's more likely to, if he goes down, I think Abdullah. It looks like they are going to put him into a big part of the role along with Chuba Hubbard. And whereas with Patterson, he's always going to be sharing with McKissick, and McKissick is getting more of the high value touches in that timeshare. So I'm going to go with Abdullah, who I think is getting the higher value touches on the Carolina offense.
Zach, anything to add? I've been stashing Jarrett Patterson every chance I get to. Antonio Gibson is dealing with this fractured shin or whatever it is, and I know that he's playing on it and he's supposed to be okay. Washington's 3-6. I'm not necessarily sold on the idea that they're going to be doing anything that looks like they're a remotely competitive team another month from now, maybe even another 2 or 3 weeks from now. If that happens and Gibson continues to play on this injury, I could see a scenario where Washington decides to just kind of shut him down, decide that it's not worth risking further injury to a player who is obviously their starter. And on top of that, I know that when Christian McCaffrey was out that last game, Chuba Hubbard did get a rushing touchdown. So that was kind of a little, interesting tidbit to take away from the game against the Cardinals. And now also with Cam Newton, I would be a little bit concerned that maybe he's going to be vulturing some of these high value touches that Dan talked about down low in the goal line. We even saw that in week, last week against the Cardinals. So I like Abdullah. I think it's been fun watching him get involved, but I've been stashing so much Jarrett Patterson that if I back off now, I can't respect myself. So I have to go with Jarrett Patterson because I got him stashed away on enough teams that I'm just kind of waiting for him to get his chance. But I don't hate the Abdullah pick. I think that he would be in more of a committee split. I think that Jarrett Patterson is going to see possibly more of like the short yardage goal line work, and then obviously all the rushing work. Actually, funny story, and then I'll move on. I had posted a tweet not long after the football team added Jarrett Patterson. He was an undrafted free agent out of Buffalo, and I had put that you should stash him now just because if something happens to Antonio Gibson, it's not going to be McKissick getting most of the work. It's going to be Jarrett Patterson. J.D. McKissick liked that tweet, so. But I basically said
awesome.
J.D. McKissick ain't getting any work if Antonio Gibson goes down. J.D. McKissick liked that tweet, so maybe he even knows something. But yeah, I'm all in on Patterson, but I think Abdullah is also an interesting play.
Guys, smash the like, smash the subscribe. Quick attention to our partners at Global Viridian. You see the hat? I got the hat on, crisp. I got the nice comfy hoodie on. Guys, it's winter. Get a nice toque. You can get a nice Goat District toque. Just support the show at Viridian Global /collections /Goat District. I will play it at the bottom of the screen again so you guys have it. But smash the like, guys. That's your best way to support the show. let's keep it going. Let's get into receivers. Andrew, I'll go to you first. DJ Moore, high expectations coming in. Darnold, poo-poo, 5 or less catches in 5 of his last 6 games.
I forgot the conceit of the segment. Should we care? Yes, we should care because you, the listener, have a buying opportunity. I still believe in DJ Moore. Maybe, again, goes back to the definition of insanity. I love DJ Moore before the season. I loved him last season. One of these years, I think I'm going to be right. So if you want my advice, and again, as I said last show, Dan, if you think I'm wrong, fade me, become a millionaire. But I'm still buying DJ Moore. So should we care? Yes, because maybe you've opened a slight buying window on DJ Moore. To maybe if they were unavailable, now they're available, or maybe if they were previously available, maybe they're available for a slightly lower price. So yes, because go buy DJ Moore.
Makes sense to me.
Well stated. Nothing else to add, right, Dan?
All right, perfect.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to get better for him. So I'm not too worried.
Honestly, I pulled up the we're going back to Rotoviz here. Rotoviz has a game splits app that you can look at where you can take a look at how one player is performing with player X in the lineup and with player X out of the lineup. So real quickly,
great tool.
We know that Cam Newton didn't play last year. He was with the New England Patriots. He wasn't with the Carolina Panthers. Just real quick looking at it. So in his 2 years with DJ Moore, 2018, 2019, in split, he had 16 games with DJ Moore. DJ Moore had 4 receptions on 5.69 targets per game for 53.31 yards per game, which amounts to over a 16-game season. We know it's 17 games now, 853 yards. DJ Moore has been exponentially better without Cam Newton. He has a full reception per game more, but then his targets per game is almost up by 3, and then his yearly output and receiving yards is up to over 1,100 compared to 853 yards basically with Cam Newton. So you want to talk about a window possibly being open. I really think that the Panthers are going to be starting Cam Newton for the rest of the season. So that buy low window could be open for anywhere between now and the end of the season, depending on what Cam Newton does and what he's able to do. So I think you can jump on him now. Maybe that buy low window becomes even more open. Maybe people even sour on more a little bit more, depending on what Cam Newton looks like with him. So I'm with you there. I think that the buy low window is open, and it has a chance to stay open because we've seen now for at least a short period of time, DJ Moore looks better without Cam Newton, and I think he's got Cam Newton the rest of the year.
Don't like Cam Newton the rest of the year, but I do like buy window being open, and let us pray that Cam Newton's not the starter in 2022.
It won't be for the Panthers, I can tell you that.
Yeah.
But these top receivers, though, I mean, these are the opportunities you want, right? Because they're hard to buy. I mean, once they're in those top 15 in people's eyes, they're hard to get, right? F1, maybe there's an opportunity to get him, McLaurin, because of the quarterback situation. But, we hear Watson goes there tomorrow or something, something like that where he's getting a better quarterback. Obviously, the value rises. So take advantage of these buy windows, guys. Mike Williams, 2 or less receptions in 5 out of his last 7 games. I see you shaking your head there, Zach. Started off. Should we care?
Well, I'd like to say that that's the question is, what do we care about here with this? Because we've seen him literally dominate when given the opportunities. The first 5 games of the season, 12 targets, 10 targets, 9, 4th down week there against the Raiders, and then he has 16 targets against the Cleveland Browns, and then all of a sudden now he's 5.6. Like, what are we caring about here? Because we know that Mike Williams can certainly produce when he is targeted heavily. The first 5 games, he had 3 games where he had double-digit targets. He produced well in all those games. He scored a touchdown in all but one of those first 5 games, and now all of a sudden we're just forgetting about him, and we're only, maxing out at 6 targets over the last 4 weeks. So what do we care about here? What do we not care about here? He's certainly seen the field in the last game against Minnesota. He had a 95% snap share, so it doesn't really have anything to do with him not getting on the field, not being used. But he got shut down by the Ravens in week 6, and things have not been good for Mike Williams ever since. So I'm a believer in the talent. I think that when you see that he can get what he can do with the volume that he receives, it's very good. I don't think that any of us out here are contending that an average of 5 targets per game is what you would expect out of a top talent wide receiver. So if you bump up those targets to what we saw at the beginning of the season, you can see a guy who's producing and who's doing very well. he certainly has size down the red zone. He makes some ridiculous catches. He borderline doesn't have any regard for his body when he's making some of these insane catches. So I like Mike Williams. I care that the Chargers suddenly don't seem to be that interested in throwing to him as they were early on, because not a lot has changed other than they stopped throwing to him and now they're losing. But, I would like to see him turn around at some point in time, because I think Mike Williams can produce as a top receiver when given the opportunity. We saw him do it for the first 5 weeks of the season, and now it's just been kind of rough.
Dan, where are you on this? I know you're more of a patient guy. Are you patient with this young receiver, or are you kind of looking elsewhere?
Well, I'm patient into the extent that, I'm not selling him off in Dynasty or anything like that, because right now would be a terrible time to do that. He's not getting deep targets right now. Most of the stuff he's getting is coming a lot closer to the line of scrimmage, at least from the chunks of game I've watched. And that just doesn't fit his game as well. And also they've been going to Keenan Allen a lot more. When Mike Williams was really rolling early in the season, Keenan Allen was pretty quiet. And it seems like they're looking a little bit more Keenan Allen's way than they were before. So I think it's unreasonable to expect Mike Williams to get back to what he was early in the season. I think that was, that was your sell high window. But I think he's also, he's going to do better than what he's done. I mean, he's gotten some goal line targets that he just, hasn't been able to reel in the past couple of weeks. And, so there's been some almost scores for him. And, sooner or later, those things are going to work out and happen. So I'm not down on him, but I'm less interested in starting him right now than I was. If I've got really good options, I'm gonna put Williams on the bench. If I'm struggling, I'll probably put him out there, because he's a guy who could two touchdowns any given week.
Andrew, CH or Williams?
If both active, I'm going Williams. I want to. I don't know. Yeah, I'm going Williams. I think that. I mean, to me, this is like a coin flip. Yeah, pick your favorite coin, pick your favorite side, and then do it. I mean, it's probably not why you come to the GOAT District to hear Andrew tell you to go flip a coin. I go back to what Zach said is like what a strange draft pick. So I am still a little stunned about the treatment of the CEH. Having said that, and maybe I'm just going to talk myself into CEH here. If he is healthy and active, I guess that being like the qualifier here, he wasn't terrible when he was playing this year. I don't think that he was worthy necessarily of maybe a second round pick in fantasy, if not a first round pick in the NFL draft. But I think that he was productive, and at least you knew you could maybe count on the 10 points from him. So if both are active, I'm going to do a complete 180 on myself, and I'm going to go CEH. I absolutely talked myself into CEH here. Boom.
Well, what I think what we're not acknowledging is this is CEH or Darrell Williams. It's not Mike Williams.
Oh, is it really? Well, I totally mixed that up.
I have no idea.
Yep.
Did I say?
You might be right. You're probably right.
Yeah.
Oh, I have no idea.
You're totally right.
I
Obviously, you're right. Obviously, you're right.
Darrell Williams. I was thinking Darrell Williams.
Yeah. All right, I messed that up.
I was thinking Mike Williams. I was making a joke about it being Darrell.
Yeah, and I totally messed it up. I threw it in there with Mike Williams in the question. It's all good. Answer. What's your answer? Darrell or CH?
I don't love either. Can I say Mike Williams?
Yeah.
This is exactly why, guys, I do not like having two running backs from the same team. I rather just have one.
Yeah.
I try to go all in on one and then hope, not that we're cheering for injury, but hope the opportunity arises, which usually does come by way of injury for someone else. Yeah, there it is. Yes, Darrell Williams. Okay, my dumb joke ended up actually being right. So I didn't
think you were joking. I assumed the whole time it was Darrell Williams. So that's good.
Did you? Okay, so I was literally assuming Mike Williams the whole time.
This is what happens when I can't drink beer on the show, guys. This is exactly what happens. This is why we need our IPA in full gear, because I'm just not functioning right. I'm seeing Williams and other Williams, and I'm getting all confused. Guys, Philadelphia, surprise this year, a pleasant surprise fantasy-wise, right? The Eagles, 11th highest scoring offense right now after 10. Dan, What do you do you care? Should we care, and why?
I mean, Jalen Hurts has been working pretty much all year, so I care about that. The running game is a little bit tougher because it's definitely a committee. The characters change, but with Sanders hopefully coming back here, how does he fit into that? I think he's going to knock somebody out for sure. I can't imagine that they're just going to have Sanders healthy and just keep him on the bench. But I think Gainwell gets knocked out, and I think probably Boston Scott gets knocked out a little bit too. And we see a little bit more of Sanders and Howard, because Sanders is really he's a very good receiver. He's an okay runner. And Howard is actually a pretty good runner and not a very good receiver. So, I think if they are maximizing their talents, they're going to go with some kind of combo like that. So I wouldn't be opposed to throwing Sanders in. If he starts, obviously New Orleans is a tough team to go against. But again, if he's getting more of the receiving work, that might play into his favor a little bit more. And Hurts, I'm still gonna, I'm still starting Hurts pretty much anywhere that I have him, unless I've got, Mahomes or Brady or somebody like that.
Dan, did you bet the Broncos Eagles over 44 last week?
I did not. No.
Okay. I did. I asked because oftentimes I wonder how aligned our bets are. But nevertheless, I think you understand what I'm saying there. I bet the over 44. I think that game came in at like 40 exactly. So I'm going to make a point here. Quez Watkins drove me nuts because he dropped a wide open touchdown off his hand.
Awful.
And he basically ruined the over for me. The point I'm going to make here is I think you nailed it, is Jalen Hurts, like, to the extent that do we care? Yes, because Jalen Hurts seems to be functioning well. I think everything around him in terms of what's available, look, we just talked about the fantasy data guys, like what's available to you for you to action, right? You were going to start Devonta Smith anyways. You were going to start Jalen Hurts anyways. You probably have to pick a Philadelphia running back if you're that desperate. I just don't know what else you can do from a tight end if Dallas Goddard's out from a concussion perspective. I don't know what else you can do from a wide receivers that you can trust, that you wouldn't have potentially better options are. So yes, we should care because it seems like Jalen Hurts is doing well enough that he's going to protect his job and not like leave on the second quarter on you. But I just don't know if there's anything actionable that's available on your waiver wire that you can really, do based on them having the 11th highest scoring offense. And that's sort of my point here is maybe all the options are available to you and you were probably starting them anyways, even though it is a good story this year and you probably got them at pretty good prices.
Zach, where you at?
Yeah, I mean, certainly like everyone else said, you certainly care. You're certainly happy to see what Jalen Hurts has done over the course of the season. He's kind of stressed me out some weeks. I have him in a super flex league. He's my quarterback one, and I just see like Jalen Hurts like first quarter, second quarter, halfway through the third quarter. There's not a whole lot of points going on there. I kind of reminiscent of Cam Newton with the Patriots in 2020, where Cam Newton was just putting up like literally almost 75% of his fantasy points in the fourth quarter games. Jalen Hurts hasn't been quite that much of a heart attack, but he's been good. He's getting you fantasy points. And at the end of the day, it's kind of like no matter what Jalen Hurts does for you, he still comes through at the end of the day, and he is, he's getting in work for you. If you want to talk about real quick here, Dallas Goddard, possible, concussion, maybe not in the game for this next week. Tyree Jackson is an interesting tight end, I think, to stash, and I don't know if you necessarily want to be playing him this week. That's probably a little bit too bold, especially since he had 0 targets last week against the Denver Broncos. But Tyree Jackson, former quarterback at University of Buffalo, converted to tight end. Sounds a lot like the Logan Thomas story. It's what it basically is. I actually think that Tyree Jackson could have a chance to perhaps be a decent tight end in the league coming up in the next couple of years after he gets a little bit more adept to the position. He was in the XFL the previous year. So he's got some work to do, but he's 6'7", 250. He, I don't know what his actual 40 time is, but he's a very athletic quarterback out of Buffalo when he came out. So if something ever happened where Dallas Goddard was down for longer than a couple weeks, I think that Tyree Jackson could be an interesting play down the road. Last week against the Broncos, he had 42 total snaps in terms of offense. He had 27 offensive snaps. He was on the field. He was being used. after Goddard went down. So not the sexiest of names. I'm with Andrew. There's not a whole lot of other offensive players to be looking to add, but Tyree Jackson could be sneaky at some point in time if Dallas Goddard were to actually miss time.
But a lot of Buffalo player talk tonight. Jared Patterson and Tyree Jackson.
We're circling the wagons.
Yeah, especially for those tight end premium FFPC leagues, guys, take notes. Any sleeper tight end. Wheeler, feeling the same as something I'm looking at is the schedule, from now till the end of the year. And Philly's got a nice one. We talked about it on fantasy data. They play the Saints, and then it's pretty nice down the stretch. So we also talked about Miles Sanders being a big buy right now in Dynasty, kind of to take you down the stretch. He's hasn't necessarily given you what you want if you did draft him coming into the season, but now that this offense is rolling, he comes back with his talent, and hope that he's inserted properly so that he can flex what he has and produce for you on your team. But right now is a good time to go buy him. We talked about it a bit on the show. Maybe you guys have an input on it. Like, do you want to sell him now? Do you want to sell him after the New Orleans Saints game? Whichever way, I could see both ways. But I do think that if you need running back, especially with the landscape right now, I think Miles Sanders is a pretty nice buy. I don't think it should be like too much of overpay action going on for a piece like that can be significant for you down the stretch.
Yeah. Real quick, just to touch on that, and then, we can certainly move on. But I think what's interesting, you mentioned Miles Sanders was kind of being, he was being used at the time before he went down, where the offense really didn't have as much of the clear-cut identity as they do now. The Eagles are rushing for a lot more yards than they were when Miles Sanders was active and healthy. And I said that one of the things I do is I chart games for playerprofiler.com. I actually had to chart the Eagles and the Denver game. And the Eagles are just mixing in all kinds of read option, really, using moving pockets and stuff like that with Jalen Hurts. They were giving a lot of different ways, I think, offensively to work. And Miles Sanders, prior to that game, prior to his injury, I'm looking at Hero Pro Football Focus, against the Raiders, 6 carries, against the Buccaneers, 9, 11 in week 5, 7, 2. Like, the guy's not rushing the ball a lot. And now I think that the Eagles over the last couple of weeks that Sanders has been out, they've kind of found more of an identity in the run, and they've done so effectively. So I think that if you're looking to buy on Miles Sanders and there's some owner out there who's looking at him like, this guy's been ass all season, what's he going to do now? If they're not woke to the fact that the Eagles seem to have finally identified what they're going to do offensively, how they're going to run the ball, they could switch things up on us. But Miles Sanders is a gamble I'm willing to take right now. If I'm a dynasty playoff team looking to so which team is Lev Bell going to end up on the money back? I don't think Lev Bell is going anywhere, but I like that comment. But to get back on the point of Miles Sanders, I don't think that Miles Sanders is going to come to the offense and all of a sudden they're just going to revert back to what they were doing, just not giving him the ball. I think now that they know what they're going to do, he's going to be the beneficiary of a figured out Eagles offense that took a couple weeks to find itself. Which makes sense. You got 2 rookie starting receivers, right? Pretty young quarterback as a starter. A lot of newness to these offenses, and you always got to take that into consideration. Mm-hmm. Guys, we're gonna do rest of season. We'll try to do rapid fire rest of season. We're really bad at doing rapid fire here. We're as good as rapid fire. Sorry, that's my worst game. Rapid fire. Yeah, there you go. Dan, throw the first one out. Dan, this was yours. Throw it out, brother.
All right, yeah. So talking about the CNC Football Factory, Cam, and I know Dan was dying to use that, so I had to let him.
Cam and it just shows my age, right? All these Zoomers are furiously Googling what is CNC. What is that? Anyway, but we have Cam and Christian McCaffrey back together again, and a lot of people are a little bit nervous about, what's Cam going to do to McCaffrey? And, so I guess that's the question of the day right now is how much effect do you think Cam is going to have on McCaffrey? Is it going to be a positive or a negative effect? How do you see it going down? And let's start with you, Zach.
Sure. So I know this is rapid fire. So what I did is I got a notepad here with tons of questions or tons of answers to this thing here. So let me start on page 1 real quick for this question.
Nice.
Well, we only got to see a 1-game sample size of it, and Cam Newton was not on the field for a lot, but now we're probably going to get to see him start this upcoming week. So I would say that when it comes to just CMC and how that impacts him, first of all, McCaffrey needs to be healthy, which he appears to have at least made it out against the Cardinals. So that's one step in the right direction. But I think that you're going to have to kind of worry about Cam seeing goal line work. That was literally the first play that he saw against the Cardinals. He came right in. He immediately rushed to the right. He broke a tackle nonetheless, which only makes it look all the much better that he's not just running in, but he's still breaking tackles like the Cam Newton of old. And he's able to still be a physical quarterback at the goal line and get those touchdowns. So we were still drafting, Christian McCaffrey pretty high when Cam Newton was on the Panthers. So I don't think that we should think that a Cam Newton in 2021 is somehow going to massively devalue Christian McCaffrey in 2021 any less than he would have maybe in 2019 when we still like Cam Newton or Christian McCaffrey as one of the top fantasy picks. So I think you're going to have to take your lumps, once in a while. But overall, we've seen Christian McCaffrey be one of the top players in fantasy under Cam Newton. I think that he would continue to be, regardless of what Newton does. But there's going to be those weeks where maybe you're kicking yourself because Cam Newton got 2 quarterback dives into the end zone and Christian McCaffrey was left without a touchdown.
Is this another buy opportunity, Andrew, for anyone thinking the Cam factor is going to negatively affect CMC?
Dynasty, I'm selling CMC. Season long, I'm buying if you have an opportunity to trade. Lord Reeves, Rich Rebar on Twitter had a good stat today. I actually loved it. It's like the stick my hand in a car door and slam it multiple times stat. It's what I'm calling it. He didn't call it that. He said that Dalvin Cook's been tackled at the 1 yard line and leading 5 times.
Where do you come up with that?
This season, and then did not score a touchdown. 5 times Dalvin Cook was tackled at the 1, and he didn't get in. Not saying the Vikings didn't at all. And boy, it felt like CMC had 3 of those alone. So maybe just because of injuries alone, that's the reason CMC is not leading the league in that stat. Like we said, we can talk about some gross players. Look where we are. We're an 18-game season. We're in week 11. I just think that you're going to have to take your lumps and own the CMC factor for this year. So he is an absolute buy this year. Now, when I say sell in Dynasty, I'm not expecting, again, the Cam Newton thing to last long. But I think it just goes to show the number of times he gets hurt. And if you get a good, an amazing CMC week, I think that this may be one of the few times that you're going to get that window open to sell CMC. So Dynasty selling, season long buying. That's as rapid fire as I can make it.
All right. Yeah. Basically the way I look at it is he's going to lose some of those rushing touchdowns. I don't think he's going to lose a ton of the rush attempts or yardage. And I don't think he's going to really be impacted as far as his targets. Back in 2018, and Cam was quarterback and McCaffrey was a running back, he got 124 targets. And then in 2019, which was McCaffrey's huge year, he got 142 targets, and that was with very little Cam. But 124, 142, when we're talking running backs, that's a massive, massive total. So, I'm not horribly worried about what McCaffrey's going to do to him or what Cam is going to do to McCaffrey. I think it's going to take a little bit of the shine off, like these guys talked about with the rushing touchdowns. But most of the rest of it, I think, is intact. So, I think if McCaffrey's healthy, you're probably talking about, 90% or so of, what he was able to get in 2018, 2019 is within his range of outcomes. So I think he's a very interesting player for this year. And I think, long term, he's a guy you probably want to start thinking about getting off of in Dynasty. JD?
Yeah, not much to add. Pretty much the same. Dynasty, unless I'm contending. If I'm contending, when I'm contending, I approach it like redraft because you're here to win the league, right? So if at that point I'm literally playing like a redraft. So if I can get CMC at a good cost and I need it, I want to upgrade. Sell some younger pieces and some picks or whatever it is. If you're in a redraft, I'm all for it. If I'm not contending and I'm and I'm talking like contending, like you're one of the top 2 or 3 teams here because you got to give away quite a bit for CMC. You're not going to get them for nothing. you're not getting him for Amari Cooper or Chuba Hubbard. And what was it, Dan, that I wanted to send? No, I'm joking. But that's basically where it is with CMC. But again, I do, you kind of have that opportunity because of the injuries and all that. So if you do believe and we're talking about down the stretch to take that victory, I think CFC could be a good move there. Talking down the stretch, cheap players, we like those bargain basement type players. Zach, I'll go to you first. Who's someone that you're maybe picking up, or whether it's waiver wire or even throwing into a trade?
Sure. Well, I'm just is this the wide receiver value under the radar question? Because that's what I had pulled up here. Is that
we can
combine
it.
It's fine. We can combine them.
Okay. Yeah, because I think there's a number of wide receivers. Yeah. I think there's a number of wide receivers here that we can kind of look at over the course of these next couple of weeks. One guy who I think you can't ignore at this point in time, just given what's been going on out in Vegas with the Henry Ruggs situation. I don't think Deshaun Jackson is any kind of answer, is Bryan Edwards. Bryan Edwards had 4 targets last week. He had 3 catches for 88 yards and a touchdown against the Chiefs. So Bryan Edwards, we know, is kind of that guy who we've kind of been waiting on to see his big moment. 4 targets in the last 2 weeks. Each of the last 2 weeks isn't anything that's overly impressive, but we know that he can kind of get you into the end zone, and he's a big physical wide receiver who can make plays all over the field. So the Raiders have been an aggressive passing attack. They've been relatively decent with the passing attack. If I remember correctly, I believe Derek Carr still leads the league in 300-yard passing games on the season. So I think he's a very interesting player to pursue down the stretch. I also think that another wide receiver who's interesting in pursuing down the stretch is Treycon Smith of the New Orleans Saints. He finally had a season-high 7 targets this past week against the Tennessee Titans. He caught 4 passes for 44 yards and a touchdown. These aren't players who are by any means like the sexiest of names to be adding, but they're guys who I think add potential. Treycon Smith has been one of the top players on RotoViz in fantasy points over expectation, largely due to the fact that he seems to have a nose for the end zone. He scores a lot of touchdowns, even when he is not necessarily being targeted the most. But over the last couple of weeks, Smith has 2 touchdowns. He's seen 3 or more targets in all of the 4 games that he's been back. 7 targets against the Tennessee Titans, I think, is very encouraging. He had 14.4 PPR in that game. So I'm kind of looking, we're talking about little values. I'm looking at guys like that who aren't necessarily going to blow you away with being the big name wide receiver who you're out there adding. But these are guys who are low rostered on leagues. I'm looking at Treycon Smith. He's rostered on 3% of Yahoo leagues. So nothing crazy there. You can't, you can go out and get him whenever you want to. But if he ends up doing well and has a decent stretch, you got games against Dallas, you got games against New York, Jets, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Miami Dolphins. These are teams that all are very susceptible to the pass. So if he continues to come on over the next couple of weeks with the Saints and do kind of what we expect him to when he was drafted out of UCF a few years ago, then I think you might have a nice player on your hands who can be a high-end wide receiver 3, low-end wide receiver 2 a couple of weeks, and maybe win you a couple of weeks that you weren't expecting out of him early on. So Bryan Edwards and Treycon Smith are 2 guys who I like as just kind of guys who are out there, guys who are available for you to add in your leagues. If you're playing in a league where you can start 3 to 4 wide receivers, I want guys like that. 40% Edwards and football. Hope you're right. Yep, me too.
Dan, you recently bought and I was going to say Oakland, a Vegas receiver. Is he still a value? Maybe talk to us about that trade or anyone else you want to add. But
is it Hunter?
Oh yeah. So I just went out and made a trade. As I said on Twitter earlier today, I think Hunter Renfrow is kind of your discount Cooper Kupp. I think Carr is just looking to him a lot, and obviously has a high comfort level with him. I went out and bought him in a dynasty league for a 3rd round pick plus Diami Brown, and I think I probably could have got him for just a 3rd round pick, but I needed the roster spot, and Diami was who I was going to cut anyway, so I just sent him along to sweeten the deal. I think he's going to be a really strong player the rest of the way, especially if teams are going to continue to really focus on Waller, then that's going to put even more usage on Renfrow. The other one I like is Kendrick Bourne. He has been, actually surprisingly productive, surprisingly usable in fantasy. He's still available even in, some deep leagues. Since week 3, he has been the wide receiver 17. Believe it or not. So now this is in total points, so it takes advantage of the fact that he has not had his bye yet. If you factor the bye in, he's kind of more of a low end wide receiver 3. He's getting over 13 points a week on average, and that's certainly nothing to sneeze at. So he's somebody that I'm looking to add for cheap in a lot of places as well. How about you, Andrew?
We said cheap. So I'm going to be a broken record. I said this from the car on Thursday. And I'm only going to give one name since rapid fire, but Brandon Ayuk. I still believe. And I'm just going to keep watching all the mixtapes on Twitter and on YouTube of all of his route running last year to convince me that he's still a good player, even though I guess nobody else thinks so, or at least Kyle Shanahan and Jimmy Garoppolo don't. So Brandon Ayuk, and you could probably still get him for cheap. Everyone loved the San Francisco schedule down the stretch, and so maybe there's still an opportunity for that to hit. And maybe you're an injury away or whatever away from Brandon Ayuk's season finally coming to pass. So again, maybe this is a hope and a prayer for myself, but you want cheap and somebody is probably available or people feeling down on it's Ayuk, especially after his 3 for 20 something performance yesterday.
Debo. All the time, brother.
No, I know.
So I'm going to go to the running back position. Just if I'm getting a receiver, I like to kind of upgrade. If I'm getting running backs, I like adding depth, especially like these. We're talking these high stake redraft leagues. I want running backs on my bench. Dynasty going into this time of the year, you want depth. We all see why. So easy for me. I'm going to look at those top scoring offenses and who's the number 2 guy. So you got guys like Pollard, guys like Ronald Jones. These are the guys that I'm adding to my bench. Again, maybe you're contending, you're sending picks or whatever it is you're doing to get them, adding them into a bigger trade. But I think that these are the keys. Like think about AJ Dillon. If you did it a week ago, how nicely it'd be to have added him pre Jones going down. So always think of who's doing really well. We saw with Henry, maybe didn't pay off and give you that RB1 production, but there are some of these backfields where the right person comes in and I named 2 of them where I think they can give you those, maybe Jones is not giving you the red zone action that Fournette's getting right now. He's like a top, I don't know what in the red zone just because of his size and so on, but he's still going to get that action in a top 3 scoring offense. And Dallas as well, top 3 scoring offense. So those are my 2 value buys. I don't know that they're cheap, but they're probably not expensive. Tight ends that make us comfortable. I don't know if those 2, that's like an oxymoron, right? There aren't any. Andrew's just nodding his head. Do you guys have any? No. I have Conklin that I've been throwing in there. This week I took him out for what's his name? Alex Collins, which was a fantastic move and made me lose the week. But any tight ends, guys, that the tight end premium FFPC crowd can go out there and get on the cheap right now to help out.
Yeah, I'll throw it out there. So Theo and I, he's not here. RIP in peace. No, he's doing great. We debated last week TJ Hawkinson and Dalton Schultz, like a solid 15 minutes before kickoff. And of course, Hawkinson throws up the goose egg and Dalton Schultz does 2 points or whatever. Fails. So what a bunch of time and energy and resources wasted on a dumb decision. Look, people may be down on Hawkinson. That's not the player I'm talking about here. Maybe Dalton Schultz could still be the answer. It was Gallup's first game back. I think our discussion was centered around, could it be a smash game for him? Look, it didn't come to fruition, even though it was a big Dallas offense day anyways. JD, you just mentioned, do we want to make bets into offenses and hope for the best? And I think Dalton Schultz people could be down on. I think it could be a buying opportunity. Maybe he gets dropped this week. I don't know about FFPC because maybe people are holding. I know I am. But if there's ever an opportunity to have Dalton Schultz available, I would not discard him entirely after last week because I do think Jarwin's out for a number of weeks as well. So Schultz is a real opportunity for me. And if I need to, I can dig deeper if that's not a good enough answer.
I love ML's call. Foster on my dynasty tight end premium leagues. I love having him on the, as your fourth or fifth tight end because, Waller goes down. And I think even popped in, correct me if I'm wrong, for a couple TDs last year, even with Waller in the lineup.
Right. Yeah. And when Waller was out for a week, this year he did well. So
tore it up.
Yep.
Great call, ML, from the chat.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Green Bay, guys. Running back timeshare once Jones is back. Rest of the season. Like, how do we see? Do we see a split? Do we see Jones just taking it back over? Or if AJ Dillon flexes right now, Dan, is he kind of the main guy? Or I don't know that he's main guy, but you know what I'm saying. What's the breakdown?
Yeah, I think this is going to be messy when Aaron Jones gets back. As we were talking about on the Fantasy Data podcast earlier tonight, I do think that Dillon's probably going to be the guy for at least the next 2 weeks, and then Green Bay goes on bye, and it's quite possible Dillon could have even another week after that. Jones has an MCL is in his knee, so that's usually, like they say 1 to 2 weeks. I mean, most of the time with the MCL, I generally think 2 to 3 weeks. And I know the Green Bay medical staff tends to be super, super cautious. So I think it could be, more like 3 to 4 weeks is kind of the timeline that I have in my head. And during that time, Dillon's going to smash because he doesn't have AJ Dillon to share the job with. And once that is over, I think it's going to be a messy timeshare, but I think you can reasonably start both players and have a decent shot. So, what do you think, Andrew?
Messy, and I think if you want my real take, you got to go cross promotion. You got to go listen to the Fantasy Data podcast to hear all of the Patrick Taylor content that you could ever want.
Their subscribers just went up 10% in the last 3 seconds. Trying to pull up their schedule. I mean, they've got Minnesota coming up, the Rams, Chicago, Baltimore, Cleveland, Minnesota. I mean, not the prettiest. I mean, look, it's Green Bay, right? You want part of that offense. That's my opinion. I want either one of these guys. I'm way more heavily invested in AJ Dillon. I don't actually, Dan. That's my only share. The Jones share that we have is the only one that I have in Dynasty. But I mean, it's an offense you want a part of. And again, not trying to guess where this is going to go when it does get messy. If you have an opportunity to buy at a reasonable price, I'm all for that right now. And I think even Dynasty or redraft for either of these guys. Again, find the opportunity, find the guy that's either trying to move Jones now or whatever it is. And get yourself a horse, because these guys, when it comes to running backs, injuries are always a factor, right? Mm-hmm. Right off the bat. So if you just look at talent, offensive line, how often that offense is scoring, the math becomes pretty easy. League winners, any league winners left out there, guys? We talked about a lot of guys tonight, whether it was on this show or Fantasy Data. Are there any other league winners out there, Zach, that Fantasyland is not aware of, or maybe you don't find is getting enough attention yet?
Yeah. I mean, there's a couple guys who I wanted to throw real quickly. I was looking something up in regards to, we were talking about the splits with Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon and how that might look when they come back. Now, I was looking at their overall opportunity share on the season. Aaron Jones had 29%, AJ Dillon had 20%. Opportunity share. That's actually pretty split already across the board between those two teams. And the other thing I thought was, or those two players, the other thing I thought was interesting, I pulled up Tony Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott. Tony Pollard is seeing 18% opportunity share. Zeke is seeing 29% opportunity share. So I think that when you're thinking about what these splits kind of look like, you can maybe expect something, at the very least similar to that, because it was already kind of, I think, more split than maybe we care to realize at times. And then going forward, AJ Dillon, if he has a good chance to prove himself in his next couple of weeks, could end up even taking over more touches than what he was previously. But I think the splits were interesting that those two guys were already splitting similar to Tony Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott over the previous weeks, because we know that's been kind of a real split, and I've been starting Tony Pollard. I don't know about you guys, but in terms of league winners, I mean, I mentioned earlier, Jared Patterson, got to go out there and stash him if you're interested. I think Dan, kind of maybe is on the Amir Abdullah side of that one as a potential league winner with how he's been worked into the offense. And then I keep on telling myself, because the Ravens running back situation is so gross, and I don't necessarily have a name for it, but I would just say keep an eye out for someone in that Ravens backfield potentially emerge as a league winner, even if it's not a guy who has seen a single snap this season, whether it's a guy on the practice squad or maybe it's Tyson Williams who comes back and does something, because Tyson Williams is actually the most efficient runner of the guys in the Ravens offense. So I keep on kind of like keeping my eye out on just Ravens players, Ravens running backs who could maybe see a significant enough workload to be considered a league winner. If Devontae Freeman's out there, maybe go stash him and see what happens down the stretch with him. If you're playing in a league that's deep enough where you can, start Devontae Freeman as a high-end running back 3, low-end running back 2. League winners are running thin at this point in time this season. I think you really got to look around and just see who is available, what kind of situations they have. There's a great point made earlier today, looking at offenses, making sure that you can get a chance to have a good piece of a good offense. So if they're out there, I would go get them as well.
Guys, then Andrew, you've got some. Give it. Who's your league winner, brother?
Yeah, I'll start. And I think as a reminder, somebody remind me, I'm going to bring it up and I need to be fact checked. I think it's almost time for when you drop on the FFPC that the players get locked. So I'm not saying to purposely like burn and churn here, but I think that these are some players that you want the free looks at over the next couple of weeks. And if they aren't the league winners right away, I don't necessarily mind dropping them, just again, so you get the free look. So Detroit interested me. Now I will say that I love Swift's target share, snaps, all that stuff this week. I hated the fact that the Godwin, Iwabuke, and the Jamar Jefferson got the 2 touchdowns. That drove me absolutely crazy. I think Jamar Jefferson's hurt, so maybe I would have said target one of those 2 in addition to Jarrett Patterson. So I like those calls because I still think that offense stinks, but I still think that there's something there. There's some meat on the bone. In terms of sexy names, I don't know if he's hurt or not, and so maybe need to be fact checked. But I like the idea of going after the Bengals offense too, with maybe a Chris Evans, just to do a little bit of a sanity check on Joe Mixon as we get into the end game here of this 18-week season. And then Larry Roundtree did score. I don't know if he's absolutely the guy in Los Angeles. I don't think that there's like a total tide shift, but I would also be taking shots on Josh Kelly and Larry Roundtree. And like I said, with all of these guys, the beauty of it is maybe they're not the league winners. And again, probably going to be more wrong than right here. The great news is you can burn and churn just in case they end up being league winners. If you pick them up and drop them, at least they're not available for anybody else.
Dan, anything to add? Anyone add?
Yeah, I'll throw out, and God, I hate doing this because he's a New York Giant and Jason Garrett is the world's worst offensive coordinator, but Kadarius Toney, if they can just get the man some touches, he looks electric. His yards per route run are they're otherworldly, and he just needs more opportunity. So, if you can pick him up somewhere for cheap, I would definitely pick him up, hold on to him, and see what happens. And Elijah Moore, another player that's been coming on a lot. You're going to probably have to spend a little bit more to get him. He's not going to be free, but he's somebody that certainly, it seems like the Jets are starting to figure out that they need to find a way to get him some more targets too. Yeah,
AJ Dillon's my league winner. He's gonna win. He's gonna win me leagues, but no, and he, it's, I don't know. It's kind of past that, right? It's past that. Him go get him as your winner, but. Oh man, I had one and I just brain farted, talked myself out of it. Anyways, we'll come back to it. You talked about Elijah Moore. Rondell Moore, we've seen flashes. You hope Murray comes back soon, but I could see as the season, down the stretch, you could see them wanting to involve him more in this offense. I think AJ Green is back now, but again, this offense is firing. Murray, when he's healthy, is firing, and they want more to be a big part of that. So I could see second half him becoming more part of this offense and being a more significant piece in your fantasy rosters. Let's do some quick OTC, guys, before we close this out. This is rapid fire.
I got this.
Real rapid.
I got this. So Dak or Murray? Go to Zach first.
I'll go Dak Prescott for that one. I like the wide receiver offense the wide receivers he has in that offense. DeAndre Hopkins has been injured the last couple of weeks for the Cardinals, and he has not been really as good as guys like Amari Cooper or CeeDee Lamb have. So I will go Dak in this one and his tremendous supporting cast that he is around them.
Dak for the sole reason that he's through his bye.
There you go.
Yeah. I mean, if you're talking long term, I'd go Murray because I think his ceiling is higher week to week. But Dak right now for the same reason.
In OTC, real quick, Shrikant, I'm doing a coin flip between Van Jefferson and Chase Claypool. I like Claypool's talent more, but as Dan and I just sweated out a main event, I know this is OTC, and I just sweated out a main event where we could not have had a Stafford to Van Jefferson touchdown. That was the only thing we didn't need, and I was mortified to see the number of targets that Van Jefferson was getting in that end game yesterday.
Right.
So I don't know if I like Van Jefferson's talent as much as Claypool's, but I would say that it's probably between those two, but I would not drop Van for Jamal Agnew or Latavius Murray. Okay, now back to OTC.
Dan.
Oh, I got mine. Dak.
No, sorry. All right.
Yep.
Tight ends. Gesicki. I'll go to Andrew first because I know this one's going to hurt. I know it hurt us in one lineup. Gesicki or TJ Hawk?
Ugh, God.
Face he makes.
Man, Hawkinson's a better player. Goff sucks. Anthony Lynn sucks. I like Dan Campbell. He seems like a fun guy. But Goff is terrible. So I think for that reason and that reason alone, I got to go Gesicki here just because I think Tua can get him the ball better. But this really hurts my sensibilities because I just like TJ Hawkinson much more than I do Gesicki. But I guess I'm going Gesicki for maybe feeling practical about it in terms of targets and catches and stuff. I feel terrible about it. I don't know. I'd love for somebody to disagree with me. Please tell me I'm off the reservation.
Zach, where are you at?
I'm at Gesicki on this one as well. I mean, like Andrew said, Goff is terrible. I think Tua gets Gesicki the ball a little bit easier. In addition to that, I just think that when you're talking about weapons, like who do defenders have to key in on outside of DeAndre Swift and TJ Hawkinson? Like, I can't imagine that you have to put too much coverage on who are the wide receivers right now? Amon-Ra St. Brown and someone else. And Khalif Raymond.
I can't trust Anthony Lynn to scheme TJ Hawkinson open.
Yeah, well, my point is I think that you don't have to focus on those wide receivers. So shutting down Hawkinson is just going to become an easier task week to week after he had the hot start. So Gesicki, you got decent wide receivers around. You got a better quarterback than you do Jared Goff. I'm going Gesicki. He's also lined up a lot at wide receiver, which gives him just another way to be used, I think, in that offense. So it's Gesicki for me. I want it to be Hawkinson. I have too much of him for him to fail, but
same.
Yeah, I think it's who I'm going with at this point.
Yeah, so it's between Gesicki or TJ Hawkins 0.
Yeah, exactly. That's right.
Did you write that one out?
I did not.
No, I liked it.
Off the cuff.
That was off the cuff.
Great.
That's
Yeah,
good.
so this season you got to go Gesicki. Long term Hawkinson, but this season it's Gesicki, and it just pains me to say.
It's horrible.
Yeah.
Does Miami have any chance of making the playoffs?
No,
eh? They're
not a huge one.
Oh no, they're terrible. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Since no team in the league is good this year, the answer is yes.
There you go.
Well, that's kind of what it. So again, not to go back to my buddy Skywalker, but for some reason he's in my head today. One thing he talked about that resonated is down the stretch, a lot of these non-playoff teams, higher chance the studs are not playing, in those final weeks. Whereas, maybe the teams that still have a reason to play have a higher chance of playing guys. So again, because these guys are literally back to back for me, if I'm looking like they're so close, you start looking at things like that. So maybe I lean slightly Gesicki. I mean, like Andrew said, Goff is just awful, right? And you got to look at the quarterback when you're not that Tua's been amazing, but I have more hope for Tua than I do for Goff, and I think that's kind of where I'm at. I mean, you want to go narrow target tree, Dan, other than this past weekend, right? TJ Hawk, but anyways, yeah, it's too bad, man. When these guys come in, you have so much hope for a guy like TJ Hawk, right? And then it's just the wah.
Thrown 1 touchdown in the last 5 games. What are we doing?
Yeah.
Right.
One of us might be able to luck into that, guys. One of us might actually be able to luck into that if we were ever given the chance to. I'm just saying.
All right, let's do a quick one. Running backs, Demont or J-Rob, rest of way.
All right, I'll go real quick. I'll just say James Robinson. I think that despite the fact that Urban Meyer has a unrealistic and borderline annoying love for Carlos Hyde, James Robinson is certainly a stud when healthy. David Montgomery, the Bears used him when he was, back this past week, but I think Khalil Herbert's a decent player. I'm also not, for whatever reason, not that I am ever advocating for fading a player because I think he's going to get injured, but he has been injured this season at least, and I think that I'm not confident that David Montgomery is going to stay healthy over the course of the season. I think it could go right back to Khalil Herbert if he were to go down again. So I'll go J-Rob. I think he's got more longevity and he's a better player overall.
Dan or Andrew?
Robinson for me. Robinson's the guy that Urban Meyer has been trying to, put in a corner for the entire year, and he just cannot do it. Guy's just talented. He's stud. Love owning him in redraft. Love owning him in dynasty. Though I am enough of a mercenary that I will trade him off if I can get enough for him. So I have done that on a couple dynasty teams that were not competing. But if you're talking a competitor, you got to have J-Rob. I mean, he's a complete package. I mean, he catches well, he runs well. Just fantastic player. Nothing against David Montgomery. He's a pretty good player in his own right, but I'll just take J-Rob here.
Dan, I'll say, sorry, Andrew, just before Dan, you brought my attention to J-Rob because I, again, have no shares of him in Dynasty. And wow, I didn't realize how well he was doing this year. Andrew, he's RB14. RB14 was wanted to throw out there right now, year to date.
No, I agree. I hate when we have consensus. I like to be the contrarian. But I'm going to say J-Rob. But the contrarian viewpoint here is, man, did David Montgomery get the volume when he came back almost immediately? And I agree. I literally said, I think on the podcast right before David Montgomery came back, I was like, oh, Herbert and Elijah Mitchell could be, good rookies down, to own down the stretch. So I do agree on the Herbert factor here. The issue is I'm kind of expecting the Bears to come back with a vengeance, and I think Fields may be a rocket ship here. So I'm just interested to see how that offense is going to go. And as much as I love my Jaguars, Zach, I live in Jacksonville, I'm just not sure if we're going to be a rocket ship at any point this year. So I think the contrarian viewpoint on David Montgomery is he could be in a decent offense this year, whereas Jaguars I still think are going to be bad. So that would be the play. Having said that, I'm going James Robinson as well, but I hate consensus. So.
That's a very good contrarian take. I like that. The rocket ship offense, that's very solid. I appreciate that.
We're going to end on a solid take from our boy Andrew in for our boy Theo. And you know what? We got to get some more Andrew in the district, Dan. I think just the faces, the energy, the typhoon, build-ups, and just all the stories that come out of left field. I mean, there's just too much goodness, to not have him more often. So Andrew, man, this was a blast. Thanks for filling in. Zach, returning guests. You're officially a member of the district, a family member of the district. So we appreciate you coming to us live from your mom's basement. And dude, the whole going all in for something you love doing, I mean, how can anyone be mad at that? And with the goodness that you're putting out there, dude, I mean, there's no reason not to stop. So keep going, keep putting it out there. Remind the people where they can find all that goodness and yourself. And we'll wish you adieu.
Yeah. I'm a little disappointed Mom didn't bring me the meatloaf while we were down here doing this. That was kind of funny. But outside of that, yeah, you can check out some of my work on NBC Sports Edge. I'm glad I earned one of the
I had to give you one for it,
NBCSportsEdge.com for college football content, DFS, and Group of Five betting article every week. Rotoviz.com, Red Zone Report article, and Waiver Wire Rider podcast every Wednesday. Again, with the exception of this week. 4for4.com, I have my weekly Battle Royale Underdog Fantasy article that comes every Wednesday as well. And behind the scenes, doing 2 games a week, charting for playerprofiler.com. You won't see my name on it, but you can see some of the stats that I'm randomly uploading for whichever game I'm assigned that week. So a little bit of everything. I'm super stoked to be on here with you guys again. Always a blast. Hopefully we can do this again soon, but it was a pleasure, guys. ZK_FFB is my Twitter handle also.
Follow the man, folks. Follow the man. Smash the like. We've got the comments, Marcus and Mr. Reddy throwing out some kind words about our guests and the amount of fun we have on the show. So if you like it, guys, smash it, subscribe, share it with anyone not in your league, of course. But we appreciate the goodness. Dan, anything you want to part? You usually have like some wise, Mr. Rogers words for Fantasyland or anything like that.
I lost my sweater at home.
The sweater made me think of, I don't know.
Yeah. No, I mean, just what a blast having Zach on again tonight. I love just talking with people who are really well rounded in the game, and Zach is one of those people. Because you get some information from different angles that you don't normally get. So thanks for coming on, Zach. Really appreciate it. Fun group, fun chat tonight. You guys were killing it in the chat. Thank you for that. That makes the show a lot more fun for us as well. So come on back every week and let's keep doing this.
For sure, guys. And we're here every Tuesday, for sure, 9:30-ish. And then Thursdays, we do the 1 hour between 7 and 8 pre-Thursday night football. The tailgate, make sure you come hang out with us. We keep smashing the guests, guys. We have a serious guest list coming up. Return guests, past champions, some of the best analysts in the game. And man, we appreciate your support. We talked about the chat. Guys, if you're listening in the podcast format, I know we have a big following in the podcast world because that's kind of where this started. But if you're not checking out the live show, come check it out. Drop your questions. Tons of comments, tons of fun happening in the chat. And now, we appreciate you guys tuning in. Get those W's, guys, as we, and we're talking down the stretch going into week 11. FFPC players, keep an eye out for trade deadlines coming up. I think it's before week 12 anyways, I think it is. And then, you guys talked about with the redraft tournaments as well, some important dates coming up in those high-stake leagues. So, guys, be safe. Keep killing the game. We'll check you all later.
Go district, the Pope listens. Dynasty, our religion, for the blokes missing. On all of these trades, on all of these plays, on all of these grades. By the end of the day, y'all getting played. So, what you gonna do next? Try to fill up that flex? Send the homie a text. That trash offer's the best. You try to make it complex, then they text you back. Now all of a sudden they don't make any sense. Broaden your horizons, boy. Dynasty's not for the Simons, boy. These trades not for consignment, boy. Respect your opponent, y'all some piranhas, boy. This my advice, from me to you. Open up your cute little podcast queue. Search up GOAT District, my dude. Pop it in your ear, man, y'all know what to do. It's the... And I always be traded. And I always be traded. And I always be trading. Y'all try to betray them, but first you gotta bait them. Fish.
Nice. The Mr. Rogers. I love it. I love it with the 2-finger salute. Beautiful. That's beautiful.